to stop this momentum. The protests have become much bigger than one issue. Alistair Leithhead, BBC News, Rio de Janeiro.
Well, with me here is Bruno Garcez from the BBC's Brazilian service, and we spoke at the start of the week, and yet we've seen these protests mushroom. We've got this emergency cabinet meeting going on as we speak. It's looking more and more like a crisis for the Brazilian authorities now.
Well, it is, and now it's morphed into, as you mentioned, into something slightly different. It was a movement that had a more specific agenda. It became broader and broader, and now it seems to be voicing the whole disillusion that Brazilians are feeling with the political class as a whole. And we are witnessing even some placards and some slogans with a somewhat worrying touch to it, which are calling for the closure of the Congress or the impeachment of the president without any specific reason for that.
Are you hearing anything, just in terms of that cabinet meeting, the sorts of things that they are perhaps considering? Well,
what many people are calling for, I mean, the word on the street is that President Dilma Rousseff should kick off what has been postponed for very long, of a political reform that would see the country tackling the finance of campaigns and so on, political parties. But Brazil has plenty of them, not many of them representative enough. They just exist out of convenience, so the people can make alliances. So I think that's one of the demands that we're seeing. It's hard to say if she will be that bold, that ambitious, though.
But then when you think of some of the other issues, you think of corruption, you think about inequality in the country of what people have, you think about the public services that people were also unhappy with. Very, very difficult to try to make fundamental shifts on those sorts of things, even if they wanted to.
Yes, and I think she will also be very cautious because not only Brazil is hosting the World Cup next year, but we also have general elections. President Dilma Rousseff is a candidate for re-election. She has lost a few points in popularity. That was prior to the protests, the polls have shown. So whatever she does, she will tread very carefully. She has had a somewhat timid response to these street protests, which shows that she is, testing her ground a bit.
And when we look at these pictures, what is absolutely evident, not just that the numbers have increased, but the levels of violence, that is also going up, and the response also from the authorities has slightly shifted as well, hasn't it?
Yes, I think the authorities had toned down from the very beginning when it showed a very brutal response to protests. But now, once again, it is becoming more aggressive, more forceful, because it is feeling that it's being challenged. So many, even in Brazilian social media, we at BBC Brazil have seen a lot of that, are calling for caution and saying that maybe now is the time for people to get back home, to get out of the streets.
Well, Bruno, thanks very much for now. Perhaps we will talk again once we hear a little of what actually comes out of this cabinet meeting. But thanks very much for that. Thank you.